Problem 110 is an example of a typical problem. It's this very simple drawing, just has orthogonal lines, vertical and horizontal lines, but it has many dimensions. In fact, I think it has about 20 different dimensions. And as you see, what you're going to find as we go around this is that we may have to stop and go back and approach it from the other direction because we don't actually know how to continue. We'll see how it goes. What I strongly suggest you do is that while you're working on your PC in AutoCAD, I suggest you open up this drawing in Canvas from your phone. You really should have the drawing available to you. If you have the ability to print it out, great. If you don't have the ability to print it out, have it available on your phone. That way you'll always have access to the drawing. You'll be able to go back and forth just by looking. Now I'm going to go back and forth on the screen here, but I also have a second monitor that has that drawing up, so I can just quickly glance over and look directly at that drawing. I'm going to start right here in this lower corner. And one thing to note is we don't see an arrow, so we don't see any kind of absolute coordinate. So we can start this anywhere. I'm not going to even bother looking or caring where 0, 0 is. I'm just going to open up my AutoCAD, and I'm going to choose a line, and I'm going to start somewhere down here. Before I do that, I'm going to turn on my ortho mode because I want to be making only vertical and horizontal lines. And I'm going to turn off my grid because I don't really need the grid here at all. So I'm going to come down here and just start a line. And going up, looking at that drawing, I need to, let's go back to that drawing for a second. If I'm starting here, my first line is going to be 1.4 plus 0.875 plus 0.875. Well, I could quickly add that in my head, and if you're good at math, you can do that. But if you want to be safe and be sure, you're going to need to pull out a calculator. Well, you can pull out the calculator on your PC. However, AutoCAD has a calculator available for you. That calculator is right here in Utilities. Now remember, we talked about this the other day. This button here toggles what these panel buttons look like. So you can minimize the panel buttons. So you'll see that. You'll see only the little tabs. You'll only see that, or you'll see the full complement of information. We want to see the full information. And you need to be on the home. If you're in Insert or one of these, Annotate, Panometric, etc., you're not going to see exactly what you want to be looking at. So you want to make sure this is at home, and you want to be so that we're showing all of this information. And again, this information is called, let's go back and we'll hover over it so it'll show the full ribbon. So showing full ribbon allows us to see this. So we go to a calculator, and our calculator opens up, and if you remember those numbers, we need to add 0.875 plus 0.875 plus 1.4. And we can take a look at that, and you can see I added 14. So does that delete 1? Yes. So 1.4 equals, and we get 3.15. So we're going to escape out of that. Go back to our line. Just pick a starting point and simply type 3.15. Now again, what I'm doing is I'm doing the simple way to do dimensions. In vertical and horizontal mode, once I start drawing a line in a particular direction, all I have to do is type the number. I don't have to type a negative or a positive, because the fact that I started the line tells me the direction. So I type 3.15 and I hit enter. So now I continue, and now we can see roughly the size of the drawing. So we certainly want to expand that, and now we can move it over to the middle. And that gives us a good, maybe we'll move it a little bit over this way, a good idea of sort of the range of the drawing. So now if we go back, we need to go over 1 inch, and already take a look here. We don't know what this dimension is. Right here, right? Now there's some probably complex way we could look at all these and figure it out. However, I'm not going to bother doing that right now. So I'm just going to type 1 inch, or just type 1. I'm going in the right direction, and hit enter. And that completes us to there. I'm going to hit escape and stop. So now that I sort of bombed out in that direction, or found that it became really difficult, I'm going to go back in the other direction. So I'm going to come back here, start from here, and continue. So let's take another look back at our drawing. We need to go over by 1.5 and then down by 1. So let's come back to AutoCAD. We want to choose our line, and we get our little box that tells us that's our starting point. Remember, you're not going to get your little box if you don't have the snap to on. So if I actually turn this snap off, I won't get that little box. See that? It doesn't show up. So I need the snap to 2D cursor reference point on. So now I get the little box. And now I'm moving over. And by now you might have forgotten, am I supposed to go over by 1.5 or down by 1.1? This is exactly why you want to have that piece of paper next to you or your phone to be able to look at. So I can take a quick look at my monitor and see that I need to go over by 1.5. So I'm going over horizontally by 1.5. I simply start the line in that direction, type 1.5. I don't have to go in the text box or anything. Hit return. I then go down. I apologize about my phone. Now that I'm going down, I need to go down by 1.1 inches. So once I'm going down, all I have to do is type 1.1 and hit return. So continuing on, we're going to go over by 1.5 and then up again by 1.1 and over by 1.5 again. So we're going to go over by 1.5, up by 1.1, over by 1.5. Now we're going down, and again I'll pop the drawing up again, down by 1.625. And again, this is just a reminder for you that as you're doing this, depending on how comfortable you are, you should just watch one section of this video and stop it. And then do that portion of the line. Then go back to the video, watch the next section, and do the next portion of the line. AutoCAD doesn't care. So if I go and open up another window, as you can see here, as I go and I open up here I am in the middle of the line mode, and I go and I open up this PDF and I start playing around. I can do whatever I want in this PDF. I can move it around. I can make it bigger or smaller, whatever. Once I go back to AutoCAD, I'm right back where I started. So AutoCAD doesn't care if you stop. So as you're watching these videos, please stop them. Then continue on. So don't try to watch 4 minutes of video and for 5 minutes of video and then try to do 12 steps. Watch a single step. Stop the video, do that step, and then continue on. If you don't understand, back up to the beginning. Back up to the point where you do understand. And then if there's some point that you just don't understand at all, come and ask me a question during, preferably during class time. don't wait until after class. Send an email saying I don't understand what's going on. There's always class time available for you to come on and say, hey, I don't understand. What do I need to do? At the end of class Monday, I stayed on for another 15 minutes with a couple of students going over a few things, and I did the same thing last week as well. So I am generally there for you. So please make sure that you do that. So anyway, as I'm going from here, I need to go over by 1.75. So I'm simply going to type 1.75, hit enter, and then I'm going to go up. And here I go up by 2.875 and hit enter. And then I go up by over by 1.25 and hit enter. Now here, let me go back to the drawing here. I'm right at this point here, and I need to go up by 5.25 minus 2.875. So I'm going to get my calculator out again. .25 minus 2.875. I need to go up by 2.375. So it looks like when I open the calculator, it ends the line. And again, that's not a problem. We just come over here and click line to start the line again. You'll always know that you're in the line mode because it'll ask you to specify the first point. Or you're in a draw mode, I should say. You won't necessarily know whether you're in a line or some other draw mode. But you can tell what you've clicked by looking down here. If you look down here, you see under command, you'll see underscore line, and then here it'll say line specify first point. So here I come back here, I click once I have that green box, and then I type 2.875. And I go up. And now I'm all the way at the top here. And this is easy math here, 7.5 minus 7, so it's simply 0.5 inches. And then after that, I'm going to go down by 5.25 minus 4.5, or 0.75. So I'm going to go over back this way. Now here, remember, I'm going in negative dimensions, but I don't need to type negative numbers. As soon as I start the line in this direction, all I have to do is type that 0.5, and I'll move by 0.5 in that direction. Same thing here. I need to go down by 0.75, but I don't have to type negative 0.75. I just have to type 0.75 here. And the next one, I'm not going to go back to the drawing, but we're looking at 7 inches minus 5 inches, which is quite easy. That's just 2 inches. We simply type 2, enter. And we're going to go up, and here we're going to go up back to this dimension, so we're going to go up. Oh, here's something that's pretty cool. And it has to do with this snap. And you might have just saw a glimpse of it. If I come over to this point, I see the box on that point. Once I have a box on that point, I can take a tracking line from that point. So I can, from here, I can move over Is it letting me do this? I guess I have to have this on. I have to have this, I think, the snap reference line. Nope, it doesn't want to show it. We saw this come. I saw this showed up once, and now it doesn't want to come back. Oh, there it is. There it is. Do you see that snap reference line? Ah, you know why it didn't show up? It didn't show up because I'm in ortho mode. Because I'm in ortho mode, the only valid points that I could draw on that reference line would be here or here. So it doesn't show up until I get all the way down to here. So you see that track reference line? That allows me to actually not even type a dimension. So I could just draw a line going up and type 0.75. But I could also come back to here, and then as I pull that tracking line off, when I get to this point, it automatically creates the line for me. So I can just hit return. Continuing on, I'm going to move over by 1 inch, so I'm simply going to type 1 and hit return. And now I'm actually come down by 1 inch. So I come down here and I type 1 and I hit return. And I'm going to go over by 2 inches. Looking back at my drawing, I'll go back to the drawing for this. We're right here. So we're going from 4 inches to 2 inches. And then we're going to go back up by 1 inch. Now, look at this. We have an error here. Somewhere. So we're going to have to chase out an error in our drawing. And this is good. This isn't a bad thing. Because locating an error and finding out what you did wrong is the most important part of your drawing. And being able to do that and look back at what you did wrong. Maybe some of you actually have seen this as you've watched me do this drawing. But if not, we're going to go through and find out what our error was. And maybe you can't even see the error yet, but you will in a second. So anyways, moving across here, I go over by 2, and I hit enter. I then need to come up by 1 and hit enter. And then I should go over by 1 and hit enter. And then I should come down and I should end right here. Now, once I end here, I hit escape. Now, the reason this drawing is wrong is if you look at this section right here is at the same level as this. And it shouldn't be. So let's find out what we did wrong. And this is actually a real, as I said, it's a good example, because once you make a drawing, when you look at it, you need to be able to determine what you did wrong. And how do you do that? Well, you can use this tool right here. This is the measure tool. And if I hover over it, there it is, distance. This will allow me to check my dimensions. So somewhere here we had a wrong dimension. So I'm going to choose dimension here. I'm going to choose this point and this point. We get 3.15, and that should be 1.4 plus 8.75 and 8.75. Let's confirm that with our calculator. I think we have to cancel out of that first. We see that right here. 8.75 plus 8.75 is 1.4. So that's okay. Now this distance from here to here should be 1.1. And I wonder, and I have a feeling if I didn't make it 1.5. But let's look at that. We could use the measure from there or the measure from here. They're both the same. Here, there. Nope, that's 1.1. This next dimension should be 1.625. And that's 1.625. This should be 2.875. 2.875 it is. You don't always have to actually click or make both clicks. So the total distance from here to here should be 5.75. I think I read the dimension wrong and made it 5.75 instead of 5.25. And let's go back to the calculator and that will tell us. No. 5.25 minus 2.875 is 2.375. Let's come back and measure this then. So that's what I did. I typed 2.875 here instead of 2.375. So this is 0.5 inches too high. So that means that this line, this line, this line, this line, and this line are all 0.5 inches too high. I'm going to delete this line, and I'm going to show you how to fix this. Because this is actually helpful. With all of these too high, what we can do is we can select every single component or every single line that's too high. So all of these would need to be moved down by 0.5 inches. If I then right-click my mouse button, I can pick up the Move menu. So after we select them all, we pick up the Move menu. So now this is all highlighted. This is what we're going to move. Now, the next question it wants to know a base point. So where are we going to move from? So I can pick any point. I'm going to pick this point right here, and I'm just going to select it. So what I'm doing is I'm moving from that point. Now I'm still set up so I can only move horizontal and vertical. What I can do is just start pulling it down. So again, I'm in ortho mode. If you're not in ortho mode, well, if you haven't been in ortho mode for the whole drawing, this drawing has been difficult for you. But you definitely want to make sure you're in ortho mode for this. But when you pull down, all you then have to do is type 0.5 and hit enter. Now everything gets moved down by 0.5. So that's a good example of the move command. Now we note this is still too long, and we have to change that. Well, when you select something, when you only select a single element, if you then select the middle, you're able to move it. So I selected the center, and then when I click on this, or if I only click on the center, then I can move this part, and I can move it wherever I want. I'm going to move it over there. And I don't want it over there, so I'm going to put it right back. I'm going to come down here and just type undo. And remember, instead of typing undo, you can also come back here and just type the back arrow. Same effect. Well, that doesn't help me, does it? Now, if I select this again, if I only click on the end, let me go back and do that again. I'm going to select it. When I hover over the end, do you see it tells me do I want to stretch it or do I want to lengthen it? Well, what's the difference between stretch and lengthen? Lengthen will make it longer. If I lengthen, come back here and type. Oh, actually, I don't want to type. And I could. I could type a point. I could type a 0.5, or I can just pick that point and hit return, and it goes right back to where it was. Now, how does stretch behave differently? Let's go back and look at it. If I select it again, and I come over here, and I haven't hit a mouse button yet. After I select it so that I see those grips, I haven't hit a mouse button. Now I'm going to go to stretch. The difference with stretch is that stretch will allow me to change angles. So I could, for instance, put it over here. Lengthen doesn't let me change the angle. Stretch will allow me to change the angle. So in this case, even though I'm in ortho mode, I was able to change the angle. And contrary to what you think, or what you might have been thinking, lengthen does in fact allow you to shorten. Or to think of it another way, you're lengthening in the opposite direction. You're lengthening in a negative direction. Okay, so anyway, finally I want to complete this line, or excuse me, complete this part. I hit escape so I'm not selecting anything. I go back to line, and now I complete the part. Now you could have redrawn this by deleting all of the incorrect lines. You could have deleted this line and then deleted all the other lines. And that's perfectly fine. However, I did need to show you how to use the move command in order to be able to move things. Now we still have this little box in the middle. And if we just go back to the drawing for a minute, we see that the box is 0.875 inches up. And then to find the other dimension, we have to look up here. So oftentimes when you look at a drawing, you might have to look in different places to find the dimension. According to dimensioning rules, and I'll explain it more sometime later when we talk about dimensioning. For now, you won't be putting dimensions on any drawings. But according to dimensioning rules, you don't put a dimension or don't list a dimension more than once. So the fact that this is at the same dimension as that line, simply a line is shown. There is one thing missing here, by the way. There should be a line across here showing that this is at the same dimension. And there should probably be a line across here showing that these are all at the same dimension. So we're sort of making those assumptions there, but those are valid assumptions. Anyway, this point happens to be 1 inch to the x dimension, 0.75 inches up in the y dimension from this corner. So let's go back to our drawing. From this corner, so we choose line. Then we come up here and we choose snap from. We click on this point, and then we type at 1, comma 0.875. And it gives us our starting point. If you notice, see the starting point lines up right with that point there, which it should. We then go up by 0.875. We move over by 4 inches, 5 inches minus 1 inch. So you move over in this direction by 4 inches, enter. We move down by 0.875. And then we come back and we complete the box. So once I see the little square, I can hit enter, and then I just hit escape to end the line function. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. File, save as. IC1 underscore 1-10. And actually, before I save, I want to move this into my correct directory, ENG127, fall 20, and hit save. Okay, so that drawing's done, and I'm going to end the video now.